Hello Internet. Today we have DDR5 stick came in for repair. So this one does not boot. This one does boot. And so what happens is I insert that in there and the PC is not booting. And so this video here is basically going to be about the importance of not only the correct tool for the job, but also good tool for the job. To be more specific, we all know, or some of us do know, that this thing does exist on AliExpress, comes with one half Chinese, one half Russian developed software. And while this thing will work for a lot of memory chips or RAM sticks or DIMMs, however you want to call this, it did not work with my last repair. The chip, the memory stick would not even be detected. And so this is where this guy comes in. Here is the name of this thing, or here rather, developed by this guy. He's on my Discord server. You can contact him. You can download the software. And yeah, there's a GitHub QR code for the GitHub. I don't know if you can scan that or not. Let me zoom in here. Oh, I didn't know he has my name on there. Anyway, who cares? So this was the tool that I used that actually recognized my previous memory stick, and I was able to fix it with this. Whereas this Chinese junk developed by some Russian hackers could not even recognize the PMIC or the SPD. It was just completely two different things, and it was just could not read any of that. So my goal today is we're going to be taking PMIC and SPD off of the good working stick. We're going to be transferring that over here and see if that works. And if it does, then this thing just pays for itself every single time I use it. And the guy is actively developing it, though not as active as I would want him to. He's still young, plays a lot of video games. He's still in college, has a lot of study going on, so he can't really be 100% invested into this thing. He's kind of doing it as a side project, so development is kind of slow. But when it comes to bugs, I send him a DM, and within just minutes or hours, bam, he comes up with a solution. So buy this. Do not buy this junk where no one will give you support. This thing, that's the bomb. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to a desktop. This is basically the software that we're gonna be using. It's going to have all sorts of cool things, XMP profiles and whatnot. So a lot of cool stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and reconnect to the flasher. I think we're in COM 8. Yes, okay, there we go. I'm going to insert the memory stick into the slot. All right, there we go. Let's go into the PMIC, see if we can read this. It looks like we can read that okay. Let's go into the SPD. Let's read that. And this, I do not think this is correct. Actually, no, this is correct. 16. So it looks as if everything is okay. So we can probably open up the dump and write that. I always save the dump from the working one. We can also compare first and see if we fail to compare. All right, so I just loaded the SPD file, and we're going to try to verify. And it says that the verification failed. Perfect. Which means that the SPD that was on this memory stick was faulty. So let's go ahead and reopen that dump file again and write. Okay, we've written this thing. Let's verify. Verification matched. Perfect. Take the DIMM out of the slot. Go back to the PC, the bad DIMM. See if it'll boot. Looks like you gotta insert it the other way around. All right, here goes nothing. This will take about 30 seconds, up to 30 seconds, because this motherboard is kind of slow. And then also when you insert the new memory chips or memory stick into the motherboard, it doesn't know it. It has no training data, so it has to basically retrain. And so about 15 seconds or so, maybe. And it is not working. All right, let's shut this thing down. It looks like we actually failing training one of the memory chips. Unfortunately, figuring out which of the chips is failing to train is going to be nearly impossible without a very specific motherboard and a very specific hardware attached to it and a very specific BIOS running on that motherboard, which some of you already know that can be purchased on in China for an absurd amount of money, but it is what it is. So so instead of doing that, yeah, we're failing the post. So it's not training. It's basically failing the training, and that's a good thing, because with that said, we are going to be actually working on this chip. And so my guess is that the customer had already tried, as he said himself, he had already tried to reflash, and that didn't work. So but we're gonna figure out why it doesn't work, and I guess the reason why it might not work is because we see physical damage here, a lot of wear on the pads. The gold plating is almost gone, as if this was in and out 100 times. At the very least, who knows what's this gonna look like underneath there. My guess is that we probably have like a red pad or something under some of these corner chips, or maybe we have a knocked off resistor somewhere on the edge. We can take a look at that. Looks pretty good from here. And who knows, maybe this was already been taken apart, and what happens when the customer takes this thing apart is oftentimes they rip the chips off the board, not even knowing it. So let's see if we can do the exact same thing. Just rip those chips off the board and not even know it. All right, so we're gonna warm this thing up a bit. It's a lot easier when this thing's hot. Alright, I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but it is what it is. So my best guess is one of the chips has connection issues. So we're gonna go ahead and remove all of these chips, and I'm trying to figure out how we want to do this. Probably using something as simple as this, and just remove all of the chips, get them all reballed, inspect for any kind of damage, and hopefully that will be it. Alright, so the reason for training failure is right here. So there's a red pad in here, a red pad in here, and also I think we got a few in here as well. I swear I've seen some red pads there. So there's 2 pads ripped in here. So 2 chips lost some pads, and without those pads, training will not pass. So we're gonna need to fix that, and my guess is that on the back it could be the same or worse, hard to say. Just gonna have to remove the chips on the back side as well and see the amount of damage that we have over there. Alright, so reball is complete. Let's plug this chip into the software, see if we can still detect it. Okay, let's wait for it to do its thing. Let's read, still good there. Let's read SPD. SPD is reading good. Okay, we can extract the memory stick, and let's see if we can actually get this PC to boot now. Alright, so there's gonna be HDMI port, and let's insert that DIMM into the first slot, and let's see if we'll post. Look at that. Incredible. Look at this. It posted so quick. I can't even believe this is real. So what are we getting here? Are we seeing the... Where are all the megabytes and stuff? I do not understand. Let's go into F7. There we go. Total memory, 32 gigs. Alright, so let's turn this off. We still have one more module. We want to make sure that they work together. There's actually a cheat sheet on the board itself, on the motherboard. It says that I should be using A2 and B2 for the first set of sticks. So let's see if that's actually true. Okay, I think we're training now. There we go. One happy beep. And let's go into system posted in safe mode. This may be due to previous posting failure. Yeah, I know that. Get out of here. F7. There we go. Memory. 64, 65.5, 64 gigabytes. Perfect. So let's go and shut this thing down. And let me show you what I mean by the appropriate slot for the testing, or for the use rather. So on this motherboard, hopefully you can see, I'm gonna go and zoom in for you. It actually tells me where. See the number 1, that the A2 and B2 are outlined. These are, that's A1, A2 and B2. So A1, A2, B1, B2. So these two, it was asking me to populate these two. And so if we had more RAM, I guess we would be populating the rest of them, and it would detect even more RAM. So I don't know, it just depends on the motherboard, how it's configured to operate and whatnot. So what is the takeaway of this video? So the takeaway is, number 1, that a good PMIC SPD reader is absolute must for these repairs. If you want to get one, go ahead and contact that guy on my Discord server. I do have a link somewhere on the tools or memory section or whatever. You'll find it there. And then the lesson here, or not so much lesson, but the two of the common points of failure of these DDR memory modules is obviously physical damage, as we've seen with this one, but also the reason why this one will never fail, or this one will never get corrupted PMIC or the SPD data. I think it's either one or the other. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's the SPD that gets corrupted. So this one will never get corrupted, but this one will. And the reason for that is because this one has LEDs. Now, what's so special about this having LEDs and this one's not? How does this make any sense? And the reason is very simple. I believe it's either the SPD or the PMIC. They're on the same bus line as your regular RGB controllers on your motherboard. So if you go into your motherboard settings and you start fiddling with RGB settings, especially if you're using third-party software like Armory Crate from Asus or Gigabyte Lighting Room or whatever, I don't remember what their names are. Every time they try to access LED settings and they try to tweak things out, they will see the LEDs on the memory sticks, and they will try to force their colors or whatever, and then when they do that, they accidentally flash either the SPD or the PMIC chip on this board instead of flashing the actual RGB controller, because the RGB controller and the either PMIC or the SPD, they're all on the same bus, like I said. So they end up screwing either both or one of the chips. So yes, if you don't want your chips to memory sticks with the LEDs to die, do not mess around with the LEDs on your computer, or simply buy memory sticks that do not have LEDs. They are cheaper and they will perform just as good. So hopefully this was entertaining, or educating rather. Thanks for watching, and have a blessed day. Goodbye.